Welcome to Nittay, a place where learning goes way beyond the classroom. For some, it's home. For some, it's a step towards transformation. For some, it's the beginning of a wonderful journey with like-minded people.
Thanks to the teaching and mentoring activities and dynamic incubation center, I am now industry ready.
Engineering at Nittay includes aeronautical, civil, computer science, electrical and electronics, electronics and communication, information science, mechanical, biotechnology, MTech, MCA and PhD. Nittay also collaborates with reputed universities around the world to give students an international academic exposure.
At Nittay, the focus on research has not only helped me understand my subjects, but reach for the stars.
Nittay offers a unique co-op program, an exposure to architects, artisans and urban designers.
I aspire to be the heart of progress.
CHEMA is listed in the World Directory of Medical Schools.
I learned the art of helping people smile.
A.B. Shetty Dental College is listed as one of the top dental colleges in the country. Justice K.S. Hegde Charitable Hospital, part of the Nittay Group, has 1,000 beds, advanced labs and diagnostic centers, which attract a good number of patients from across South India. Along with teaching and clinical practices, we offer programs in pharmacy, nursing, physiotherapy, speech and hearing, biomedical sciences, and paramedical programs like respiratory therapy technology, operation theatre technology, medical imaging technology, and medical laboratory technology.
I've always been curious about the chemistry of cures. I help in healing. From toddlers to seniors, I care for them all.
I believe I can help improve the quality of other people's lives.
We are blessed with the ability to speak and hear from birth. Not everyone is as lucky. I want to do my bit to help the less fortunate. I am proud to be able to assist a surgeon in the operation theatre.
From simple X-rays to sophisticated MRI and PET scans,
my course trains me to assist radiologists and physicians. The training I have received in testing blood, tissues and body fluids assures me a job at any clinical laboratory. I help people enjoy every breath.
I believe in the power of research to change the world.
NUCSR is a one-of-its-kind teaching and research center that addresses society's health needs through painstaking research in biomedical sciences, food safety, microbiology, and biotechnology.
What I learn here and at my internship in the University of Minnesota, USA, I will carry with me and teach my community to live healthy and stay happy. We believe in being our own bosses.
The Bloomberg Lab helps students stay up to date with the latest trends in global markets. Students also have access to Bloomberg Analytics and can, in the course of their learning, develop their own analytics.
I cook my own recipe for success.
Sarosh Institute of Hotel Administration molds each student to become perfect hospitality professionals. A healthy blend of polish and panache.
I speak for the voiceless. This is what I'm taught, and this is what I'll practice.
I design my dreams and my goals.
I measure success by the trends I inspire.
Bachelors in Fashion Technology at Nittay offer students state-of-the-art labs and the space to get their creative juices flowing. With the best of infrastructure, an active placement cell, and a lively atmosphere, education at Nittay helps students grow, breathe, and bloom. Graduate into a better future. Graduate with Nittay. Welcome to Nittay, a place where learning goes way beyond the classroom. For some, it's home. For some, it's a step towards.
Okay, yes. So you're on mute.
Sorry, okay.
You're on mute.
Yeah, very good morning. Yeah. So, very good morning to all of you and a warm welcome to this webinar on entrepreneurship and startup ecosystem in campuses. Today, we live in a technology driven world, and every day we use any technology to reach the common man. We need enterprises and the industry. Academic institutions like ours have been active in carrying out research, but there is a long way from research to become a technology. And this is where the Department of Science and Technology has established the Technology Enabling Center. And we are one of the Technology Enabling Centers of the DST. So, under the aegis of this, we are organizing this webinar. And today, higher education institutions like ours are being evaluated not only by our teaching and research output, but also by the number of technologies developed and transferred to the industry. And in this, we lack experience, particularly the universities working mainly on life sciences area. We are not much familiar with how to do business and how to work with enterprises. And we need to learn from institutions like IITs, which have been in the forefront of this area and have been leading India in technology development and transfer to the industry. So, in this context, we approached a very eminent speaker from IIT Mumbai, Dr. Ganga, and she has kindly agreed, and she will be delivering this webinar on entrepreneurship development in the campus. Before we start to open this webinar formally, we have our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari, who is a well-known ENT surgeon, and he had a long academic and clinical career before he took over the reins of this university as the Vice Chancellor. And he has also been active in research and technology development. He himself has a patent, which is the first patent application from the university on a mouthwash, which is helpful for patients who are undergoing therapy for oral cancer. So he has been in the forefront of this, and he has been promoting not only research but also entrepreneurship, technology development in the campus. And he led the university to NAC A grade assessment. All of you and introduce the university. So I'd like to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor to open this webinar.
Very good morning, my esteemed colleagues from the university and distinguished speaker for this very important webinar, I can call it, Professor S. Ganga, and all the participants. First of all, I should congratulate DST, Nittay University, DST New Tech, as our friend India was telling, is one among the 6 centers I understand in the country. DST New Technology Enabling Center. It is organizing this webinar. I congratulate the department of DST New Tech. I am very glad that Professor S. Ganga, mentor in residence, very interesting terminology. We want some mentors in our university also. I think Indrani and India, they are doing. We want more mentors in this university. Society for Innovation Entrepreneurship. Professor Ganga, I am very happy to tell you that recently we started Nittay University Innovation Council. Because usually it is not, it was very popular among the engineering colleges, but we thought we should also have an innovation council. I think India and Indrani can lead the innovation council to better heights. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be part of this webinar. As you all know, as Professor India said, for any country to prosper economically, innovation and intellectual property right is very essential. Always I quote Germany, because always this is my role model country. I understand that they in the 18th century, even early part of the 19th century, They are just like our country, very low GDP and agrarian-based economy, similar to us, but they made a change by starting innovation universities or universities with the research orientation and university with the out-of-box thinking. And they promoted research and innovation, and then rest is history. You know that one time the maximum Nobel prizes went to Germany, and they become now they I think understand that they are third in the world in entrepreneurship. In India, as you all know, we have got 900 odd university, more than 50,000 colleges with the gross enrollment ratio of 26%. We have started, we have created a knowledge society, but unfortunately, we always will get complaint from the industry that graduates who come out of the universities are not industry ready, they are not skill oriented, and that's very unfortunate thing. But our main objective should be to give more experiential learning and make the student skill oriented, innovative, entrepreneurial, bent of mind and out of box thinking, and we should require more job givers than job seekers. There's a debate whether entrepreneurs are born or made. To a certain extent, I agree that entrepreneurship is in the DNA of the people. One good example I can use, I understand, I could gather from Professor Ganga's discussion that she is also from Karnataka, and she migrated to entrepreneurship is there in Karnataka, and particularly in our South Canada people. You know how our people migrated to Bombay and started Udupi hotels, and it became a world-renowned brand in hoteliering and hospitality. Unfortunately, the present generation, I feel most of them attracted towards 9 to 5 jobs, and they are not willing to take risk. And the parents are also I don't think there is no encouragement for starting entrepreneurship. But luckily, the trend is gradually changing now, and thanks to the various initiatives by the government. Sorry for the hello. And webinar today, I'm Nittay. Sorry for the interruption, and thanks to the various initiatives by the central government, and I'm very happy to tell you that I'm glad to note that India has become a startup hub now, and in the world, it's carving its position as a startup hub, and a lot of things are changing now. We are marching towards a League of Nations who are the leaders in the technology, and we are very happy about that. But we have got a larger role to play here. Universities have got a big role to play in providing the ecosystem for innovation, technology development, and the commercialization of this technology. In this direction, I am very happy to tell you that our university has also taken certain lead, and already we have got Atal Incubation Center, and out of 25 Atal Incubation Centers in the country, one is given to us. It's in our founders village Nittay, and DSC Tech is in the university campus. I congratulate Vidya Karnasagar, Indrani Karnasagar doing good work in Technology Enabling Center. It's one of its kind, and they are doing really good work. I should say that probably the time, according to the timeline, they have exceeded the work, and I think there is a bright future for this Technology Enabling Center. And this one among this webinar is going to really lead us to the future. I think the future is very bright for the university. And we are again, I'm glad that Professor S. Ganga, the mentor in residence of IIT Mumbai of innovation entrepreneurship, is with us. And as you all know, IIT Mumbai is ranked second in Atal ranking, in RER ranking, and fourth in NIRF, understand, if I am not mistaken. And I'm glad that such a distinguished speaker, yes, Ganga, is with us, and definitely will be having a very enlightening, thought-provoking webinar, and all the participants of the university will be benefited by this. Probably it will be interactive webinar, and all will be benefited. And I wish you all the best, wish great success. And I once again extend my invitation to Madam Ganga, Professor Ganga, to visit our campus whenever the time is ripe, when the COVID situation improves. I think it's not going to continue generally it is going to change the next 3 to 6 months. I request you to visit and guide us.
Yes.
We are very young university. We are in the infancy, and I think we got a long way to go. And I request you to help us in creating an ecosystem in the
Good morning, all. Good morning, Dr. Ganga, our esteemed Vice Chancellor, and all those who have decided to listen to a very important topic today. Being a university involved in teaching and research, we always delve into kind of topics that are related to curriculum, to teaching, and also to research. And today, we have one that is related to what research is done into a technology, yes, but the way forward in converting that into a technology is a big step. Many of us realize that we have the biggest problem of not being able to think beyond what we have done in the precincts of the laboratory. Now, necessity, they say, is the mother of innovation, and this is most seen during Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I'll talk from here. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Yes. Apologies for the interruption. Hello? Yes. So, necessity, as they say, is the mother of invention, and during adversity, such as the present pandemic, we have seen the best of innovations happening. Having said that, we also needed to have a platform through which the research gets translated. And this was envisaged by the government through the various programs and various platforms that were set up. The word incubation had become a home name, but it was not long before they realized that before even taking a technology to become, or a research technology enabling, this is why the Department of Science and Technology set up the technology enabling centers, and 6 centers are active on this platform at the moment, with the Nittay deemed to be university platform being one of them. Now, the multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary research is a focus, and moving them from a library shelf to making it a technology, and to make it feasible to become a technology, has been one of our aim. Now, the purpose of setting up this center was not only to help Nittay deemed to be university and the research going on here, but for other colleges that are in and around Mangalore, other universities, because there is always a big gap in the translation process, and therefore the purpose for which it was created was supported very well by Nittay deemed to be university, and with the Vice Chancellor at the helm of affairs, I think, as he already mentioned, a lot has been made possible, because without the person at the top supporting anything that you want to do, things never go to a logical end. And having said that, I should, without coming between you and the speaker, I must let you know what are all some of the main activities at this center. Yes, mining of technologies that are developed at various labs in the university, mainly in the university and also in all the partner institutions of the university and other institutes in and around our own location, assessing the technologies that can become a requirement for the MSMEs in and around the place. Now, as we know, the technology readiness level is very important. We may think of many of our technologies that can be converted, many of our research that can be converted into technology and becoming an entrepreneur. But what are all the steps? How do we identify when it goes to the technology readiness level? So evaluating the maturity of any technology for its further development is also one of the tasks of the enabling center set up at Nittay DU. It's not enough to identify the readiness level. We need to carry out market study. We have to assess whether this technology has market potential. Now, this is very important because if we see that what we are developing and bringing into the market is something redundant or it is something that is already there, how can we bring in some novelty? And we all know is the beautiful packaging, the beautiful printing, the beautiful colors that sell, and not to speak of Amitabh Bachchan or Aishwarya Rai coming and advertising for you, whatever be the product that you have made. So there are many studies to be done. If you have to make any research go to a level of becoming a startup or of becoming going beyond the level of startup. Now, to recommend whether this pilot stage development with all these institutions that are going on are market ready or not is one of our important tasks. And therefore, the Technology Enabling Center, together with other institutions of Nittay Education Trust, the Atal Incubation Center, the New Age Incubation Center that exists, now all of them prepare reports and help in assisting in the market survey and also in looking at areas of dense industry clusters. So these steps are very important, and in all of this, the Technology Enabling Center, with the very first step of also looking at creating a patent for the research that has been done in order to have hold on the novelty, networking with various other technology development institutions and laboratories for refining whatever has been developed. See, it can even start with an ideation that comes from an individual. The Technology Enabling Center helps to convert that idea into a kind of basic technology that later will have to be refined before it becomes something that goes to an industry level. Now, to go to a stage of startup, the center, of course, is conducting periodic workshops, is also conducting seminars in collaboration with industries and with eminent individuals who have a thorough knowledge of this kind of marketing that needs to be done, whether it is for a startup or whether it is later to make it ready to go to an entrepreneur. These are all the requirements that we bring out every 3 months. And there are important industries in the region like Camco. We have many food
innovation and entrepreneurship in Mumbai, IIT Mumbai, as head of operations. Now, this is a large organization which is promoting entrepreneurship in IIT. And as per their website, there are more than 170 startups and 550 enterprises, and they have been able to raise 1,400 crore funding. So we would like to hear from Professor Ganga how this is being done at IIT Mumbai as head of operations, and also now as mentor in residence. She has been actively working with the various startups and entrepreneurship. So we are indeed very happy, madam, to
Thank you, sir.
that you agreed, and we look forward.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind introduction. Before I share my slide, I should say my sincere thanks to Professor Satish Kumar Bandare, Vice Chancellor of Nittay. Your introduction was just too apt, sir, and it's extremely overwhelming and very nice to know, the kind of vision and thought process you believe in this whole ecosystem. And surely, I think you've laid the foundation stones. It's just about going. And I think whatever I'm going to say, a lot of it has got resonated in the areas you covered. Thank you, Professor Dr. Indrani. You were actually, I mean, you're like the captain of the ship, I guess I can see the way it was described. And you're the one who's going to sail the ship through. So, and I think the clarity of thought and the understanding is just too good. So I think it's making my work much easier today, because I really don't know how much top up, because you seem to understand a lot of things, but extremely overwhelmed, and it's humbling to know what are your initiatives. Dr. Karna Sagar, thank you so much for putting all of this together, and I really truly appreciate the effort and commitment behind this. Thank you. So thank you to the participants who all have logged in for sparing their time, especially during pandemic, when we have to log in from wherever, take sessions, do your research, and still manage to attend the webinar. Thank you so much, and here we go. So can I share my screen, Dr. Karna Sagar?
yes, please. Yeah.
You can just tell me. So I'm going to go off my video for saving the bandwidth, and I'll share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So thank you once again, and this will be an interactive session, so you can feel free to intervene whenever you think it's necessary, or I could take you through some of the points. I can share as part of the journey, and probably we can take it at the end. So, I think Dr. Karna Sagar has been kind enough to give an introduction. So, just two points. My corporate experience has been more entrepreneurial. So, because today, even in the corporates, to survive, we need to have that skill of entrepreneurship. And like our esteemed Vice Chancellor did make a mention, it's all about skills. So, so it's an entrepreneurial approach. So that's what I learned, besides the knowledge and technical skills of the finance side. And last 10 years, I've been with academics, as it's been introduced. So I also do study for ISBA. ISBA is obviously Association for Startup Incubators, TBIs. And I'm also associated with doing a couple of other studies with other organizations which are in the startup ecosystem. So that's my brief thing. So the whole 28 years I have spent engaged my time with either entrepreneurs as a banker, where I was giving them funds, or students where the second and third generation were joining in their family business, so the family managed business program, so I was teaching them, or maybe in the incubator dealing with tech startups, innovators, first generation entrepreneurs at Science. So my passion across has been with Nittay University is already kind of put a lot of building blocks. So I mean, we can only talk of how to build it further from there, and probably share with you some kind of, what startup ecosystem generally has been, vibrant across. The beauty of startup ecosystem is it's very geographical, very local, but yet national. So I can share my experiences. So during this journey of my discussion, I'm not an expert in the startup ecosystem the way, the way it was portrayed. I'm also learning like all of you, and maybe some exposures have helped, and there's so much more to learn. So it's an experience sharing, and if there are better insights, discussion, thoughts, we are more than happy to take it up. Yeah. So I'll just start with this slide, because I think being a predominantly life science focused, academic institution, 1 year ago, exactly 1 year ago, I think March 26th or 27th. So when the lockdown happened, so DST had decided, they had kind of, come out with this program called Kavach. By the name itself, there was a mission where they had to ensure. So while there was so much of uncertainty in the ecosystem, both at a personal, professional, policy level, economy level, so DST, like Dr. Indrani said, DST is really one of the pioneering agencies to really take that step forward. So they decided to really kind of ensure that the economy today, people like you and me, are equipped with basic minimum essentials to take care of our lives during the pandemic. And at that point of time, today we are much more informed, learned, we know. But just imagine 1 year ago, we really were scared, we didn't know. So even sanitizers were sold at some 700 rupees per liter. So, so there was a lot of challenge given the demographic profile of India, the geographical profile of India, and the lifestyles and living standards. So DST had decided that, so they gave this mandate to sign. Of course, we were the nodal agency and we had 8 other agencies working with us. They decided to pump in about 50 to 52 crores into the startup ecosystem. And the whole objective of this thing, the whole funding, plan was to empower. It's not that DST was looking at startup for the first time. So there is a lot of legacy behind what DST has been doing. They realized the worth of the startups. They realized the technology. They realized the innovations. They realized the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, which has got developed in India over a period of time in pockets. So at that juncture, they realized here's an opportunity for us to empower the startups with the right innovation and technology with funding. Because today, if you look at startups, any startups you talk to, besides other challenges, funding becomes the first thing, right? And another important challenge which most of the startup spaces, like what Dr. Indrani was talking about, really validating whether this problem is really useful for the market or not, right? So here is a situation where the government opened their arms. They said, we will give this opportunity to startup, and this is like a mission for us. And just imagine mission where they had to save the economy. Literally, it was like a, I would not say it was a pandemic in at several levels where the impact was, not known to anybody. So for a minute, if you can think back, and the kind of areas they were looking at is, they were very clear. They said startups who have the unique innovation technology to deal with to deal with products and solutions in a very simple term. So on the left of my screen, you can see they're talking of PPE kits, ventilators, medical equipments, disinfectants, sterilizers, diagnostic drugs, vaccines, and info. So broadly, if you look at the broad spectrum, you have medical equipments, you have obviously the vaccines, which is on the higher level, but you also have the basic essentials. So what they're trying to do is, they were and in most of the leading incubators today, or maybe even incubators in the life science, also had these unique innovations happening. So they gave an opportunity for those innovators to say that if your product is ready, which means it's ready for a trial in the market, it's ready for a validation, right? Here's an opportunity for you to really go and scale up that that particular innovation or technology of yours. So that was the and then when they made that statement, you will find in this picture, it was not just about the government giving us that support. We had even the incubator. So just imagine at that time, ladies and gentlemen, 26th, 27th of March, it was like a curfew-like situation, right? None of us even stepped out of the homes. The entire machinery, you're talking of this ecosystem, 90 days, I would not even say 90, it is less than 90. We had a mandate of 50, 55 days, sitting from their homes through technologies end to end, from the time of policy making till the last mile. That is 51 startups, they were given their funding, documentation, that entire process was done remotely. And all of us toiled day and night. When I say all of us, we can say, okay, as incubators, we did it. We found the government agencies to sit late night, Saturday, Sunday, 12, 1 on the calls. We had the industry coming forward. So at that point in time, what happened is, so say for example, let's take an example of PPE kit, right? So PPE kit, I'm going to share that example. We have that startup of Sign. So they had developed a PPE kit which had, so today they're all use and throw. I mean, you can't use it the second time. But these guys had, the innovators had developed a nanotechnology solution, which actually if you put on the fiber, you can actually, it is a self-cleaning solution on the textile. So we had such unique technologies coming out, right? So when the funds were given, the next challenge these innovators and startup realized is, where can they overnight set up that kind of manufacturing facility, right? Today when you look at, and it was a critical situation where they had to ensure PPE kits were made available, masks were made. Of course, today it's in abundance, right? The masks, etc. But then at that point of time, there was shortage, and life was, at risk, and there were so many other dynamics which were being played, right? So we had industry, SME industries, like what ma'am just now suggested. MSME industries, so the SPJMR where I teach family managed business, we also have an alumni of about 4,000 alumni students there. So we reached out to them. They said, hey, we have textile units, we have chemical plants. We can probably collaborate with these startup innovators, find out if they can use our facility. We can do some tweaking. Anyway, it is shut. We are not able to use it. So we are happy to help you here. Just imagine the vibrance with which, the whole activity was held. So on one side, there was innovation standing. On the other side, entrepreneurship beautifully stepped in. So when I say entrepreneurship, it's not industry. It is not just about, the industry giving the machineries. And we are talking of every person who was involved in this activity work like an entrepreneur. So that is the uniqueness of a startup ecosystem. Like I heard the Vice Chancellor talk about, suggesting things like, maybe we should look at this. I mean, out of box, he used some beautiful words. So the ecosystem works only when all of us start thinking like an entrepreneur. Only then it's going to be successful. If we are getting into a very straightjacket approach of working, it's very difficult to crack, right? We had the academia support. So the the IIT campus was shut. The entire campus was shut, but then we had a green channel, approval saying that there were some startups who had to come back to lab for some tweaking. So there were some innovators who had to pivot their product, right? So in fact, in this case of the self-cleaning technology, there were two innovators working on two startups. So they got together and they developed a new technology to handle the situation. So when we had to open the campus, we had to open the labs, that academia stepped in. The faculty who was driving this initiative stepped in. So what I'm trying to tell you is, when we say, I want to start, I thought this is a powerful way to start the power of, with this example, to just tell you, showcase the power of startup ecosystem today. So each and everybody kind of have worked. So it's a beautiful journey, like what Dr. Indrani said, it's an innovation to commercialization. So it's not just about, testing whether the product is there in the market. What startup ecosystem pushes us to think as innovators, as enablers, facilitators, faculty, researchers, innovation, you call it anything, mentors. All of us are just having one objective in mind. What is that? Commercialization. What does that mean? Will somebody pay for that solution or technology which we have made? Is it solving a problem? So today I pay something. If I buy a mobile, or if I have to buy anything of my personal use, I will only buy when we want it, right? When we know that it is meeting a deep need of ours. It could be anything, all our personal wares, whatever. So likewise, a customer or a consumer who's eventually going to is looking at our product, is the customer or the consumer willing to pay for the technology? I mean, that's the stage we want to look at. So a startup ecosystem is not just about innovation and checking there's a problem in the market, but going one step further. So today, when we're looking at lab to market, like broadly, these are the 4 steps. These are the 4 ways actually to reach out to the market, right? So one is obviously a technology transfer. So I would like to just compare. So today, the Kavach initiative of DST, the kind of products they were supporting, these are things which any large pharma company or any large chemical industry could have done it in no time. The large pharma companies have the infrastructure, they have the resources, they have the manpower, they have the logistics supply, they have the resource of raw material supply. So why is it that the government looked at startup? There is a reason behind it. So we'll just come to that in the next slide. So likewise, today a technology transfer is something like where so it's not necessary that all innovations need to look at commercialization only through a startup. There are other modes, and this is a very contextual decision whether which of these really work, and that comes in only when you start testing each of it. I mean, it's very difficult to suggest at this stage that these kind of innovation technology should look at these options. However, technology transfer could be where you've developed an innovation where there is a top-up research or more work to be done, and you find there is another research institute or another, I would say, another corporate, because even today R&Ds of the corporates are also very, very active. So where you actually transferring the technology, there is money coming in. So we are talking of commercialization, we are talking of finally somebody paying for the efforts, right? So that's one route. The second route could be licensing, where you are actually licensing. So typically, if you look at deep technology, where one of the technologies you have developed is solving an automobile industry problem as part of the process. So can you license this technology so that it can get into the process? So there's again some remuneration or some, this thing coming in. Likewise, royalty. And obviously the fourth one, as we discussed, I mean, that's going to be the focus today, is the startup, where we are talking of two things. We are talking of entrepreneurship and new venture creation. So when I gave the example of Kavach, so Kavach through DST, through this effort, actually, if you see to it, has actually, got focused on three aspects. So one is typically the social impact. We discussed that, the challenging situation the economy was facing from all ends. Economic growth, because our Vice Chancellor was just talking about job creations. In no time, they were, people were taken on board. They were, the innovators, I mean, startups and innovators who got selected had to be, given people to support. So marketing, sales, last mile delivery, logistics, service, after sales, so many things had to be brought in. We also had to ensure some of the service providers like chartered accountants, legal guys. Just imagine suddenly you are creating opportunity for jobs there. Then we are also talking of contributing into the economy in terms of their turnover, in terms of the taxes, probably they would have paid. Strategic value doesn't go without saying at all. Today, India actually is showcased across the world for so many such innovations, right, including the vaccines. So that's a huge strategic value for us. So today, I think the power of startup ecosystem is all about creating this impact. And like I told you, that every stakeholder, like in the Kavach story, I gave you so many people involved, like you and me and so many others, right? All of them concentrated and put it through that one vision. And that's how we kind of moved ahead. Yeah, so startup is all about venture creation and entrepreneurship. So I was actually reading up a little about health tech startups before the session. So NASSCOM showed a report which said that about 4,800 health tech startups, with leveraging cutting edge technology to fight the pandemic, actually came into got surfaced in the economy, got funded, got propelled, got accelerated. And today, if you look at if you look at any reports or any forums or any discussions, very clearly healthcare has been the focus. So 3 or 4 main sectors which really contributed to this one year of pandemic which we faced. Obviously, it's health. We are talking of agri-tech, we are talking of fintech and edutech, right? So if you look at it, see, the beauty is pandemic was something which people never foreseen, right? It just happened. I mean, obviously from December things changed. But the beauty is we have visionaries, we have thought leaders from all the stakeholders of the startup ecosystem, academia, government, industry, innovators, and they were working on these technology innovations for a few years before that, the pandemic hit us. So very clearly, when we talk of startups, it's looking at solving, talking of innovations, it's looking at solving some ground realities. Like what Dr. Indrani said is, you may look at local problem, you may look at a local scenario, but today, if you're really solving a local scenario, problem of a local, market, certainly that can be replicated at higher levels. And most of the successful, startups in these domains actually looked at it from there. When the pandemic hit, these were the startups really stood, they were like the spinal cord of the body, where they just took us through. We ensured education didn't get affected. Our business finances were normal. Health was taken care by a large extent. Agriculture, we had supplies coming home, right? The supply chain logistics, they were so good. So I was also reading a diagnostic industry report yesterday while I was just getting ready. So it talks about, when we're looking at healthcare, this is one part of it. I'm sure there are multiple fragments, and I'm not a very technical person, so pardon my, loose statements of some words, but you can correct my understanding, right? So when we're looking at diagnostic industry, look at the opportunity. It's the fastest growing industry. It's highly fragmented and underpenetrated. It's talking of, you have accreditation, only 1%. There are about 1 lakh labs in India. So about only 1% have got aggregated. This is the industry report. There could be, multiple variants, but broadly, and there are only majorly 6 to 7 players in the 4 to 5 players. So what does this mean to you? It only means that all those innovations and technologies you are doing at your labs, in your institutions, in the space of diagnostics or any other healthcare, there is an opportunity for you. I mean, that's the only thing I can tell you. The market is huge, and fortunately in India, 1.3 billion is an opportunity for us. And I think the healthcare segment has a lot of work to be done. And the beauty today in startup ecosystem, it's not just about one person dealing or one institution, kind of working on it. It's the entire system is working. So when the moment we know there is an innovation happening at this institute, these are the kind of impacts. I'll give those examples. The entire system comes into support. I would encourage people to go and look at some of the medtech startups we have supported in Sign. So I'm just sharing some interesting study of NASSCOM. Now this survey of NASSCOM was in 2019. Believe me, it was not even in 2020 when health tech was a focus, right? In 2019, if you see the graph, it's health tech comes second, it's close to 19%. Highest growth, we're talking of health tech. So that's the opportunity, and we have just, scratched this surface. So you look at another side of it. When we talk about health tech, and I think Dr. Indrani was talking about interdisciplinary, way of doing things, and that's can't be better explained than this. It's not about just the innovation today. It's an era of collaboration, right? Collaboration at different levels. I mean, even government has started collaborating at different levels. Institutions are collaborating, leaders are collaborating. And it just disciplines and colleges, institutions. So even human beings have to collaborate much more, right? So that's the era of collaborations. And today, the biggest collaboration which is coming in all our innovations is technology. So if you are a faculty or a student in the life science area, it must, and you might really know, you might have an innovation or at least an idea as to how this can be solved. It might just be worth it to see, because today, in the startup ecosystem or in a management statement, we say a customer, and this is a principle which will never die, right? So when we deal with the startups, we tell them to use this principle when you do your startup business. A customer comes to you when you give your product cheaper, better, and faster. I mean, this is a very universal principle: cheaper, better, and faster. So for a health tech, what all these things are relevant, right? So faster, because through technology you can be, reaching out to your consumers. Cheaper, obviously today the cost of healthcare is so expensive. There are different innovations required to make it. And I think Karnataka, we have had some very interesting, inspiring stories as to how the cost of this thing has come down, medical expenses on various diseases. Then we're talking of better. Obviously, are you coming out with solutions which are like, the best example is our vaccines, which we've given. So that is the power of technology which is coming in. So technology is something which is cutting across all the sector. And I think the first sector, the biggest beneficiary is the healthcare sector. This is again another way where NASSCOM, I can share these reports, it's available in the public domain. And when you talk about healthcare, it is not just vaccines. Look at this, it's talking of online medicine stores, telemedicine portals. it is very basic and simple thing. So when and if your faculties and students already in the domain of life sciences, I think you can relate and come out with far more interesting solutions than what is available in the market today. So that is the opportunity for you. Like the Vice Chancellor was talking about Germany. Sir, I have some insights here. So Germany, fortunately, we have surpassed Germany because we are into various other domains, but then we still have a long way. US is obviously our benchmark. Let's not talk about China. So that's where India is. And today the focus from all over is on startup ecosystem. We are one of the third largest in the world. And I think with universities like you showing that kind of enthusiasm and interest, I don't think we are very far away from where we can, look at. So when you look at startup ecosystem, I've just got this baby because I feel finally our innovators are like those little babies in the incubator. And obviously my whole discussion is going closer to incubation. So what we can actually see is, startup ecosystem has these key drivers. These are just symbolic. There could be many more. Maybe I can add one more to this. So I gave you the example of Kavach, right? So where we said the government, policy, regulators worked in hand. So in fact, in one case, we actually had a situation where the matter was pending with, CDSO, and that startup was actually shortlisted. So on a green channel urgent basis, it was taken up and the process were fastened so that, the startup could really reach the market. So today, the doors are not so rigid as it was before, right? And if I say government, it's not just central government. I'm really happy to say, because I'm also from Karnataka, Government of Karnataka is one of the best governments where they are doing phenomenally well in the startup ecosystem. So if you see the Startup India portal, I think it's on par with Gujarat, Kerala and Karnataka. And then today, we see a lot of startups not very happy for us from Maharashtra. A lot of startups actually migrating there, saying because the policies are much more favorable, it's much more beneficial for a startup there. So imagine you're in a very goldmine situation where your innovations will not only get supported by your local state government, wonderful policies by the university, as you said, as we were just discussing, that already thought process is going on from the university on the policy level, plus the state and the central government, where DST is already earmarked to as one of the DST tech, centers. So I think it's a golden era, like how I started off saying. So we are talking of industry and corporates, and I think Manipal and as the Vice Chancellor rightly put, it's a very entrepreneurial mindset. I'm doing a study for ISBA now on, there's a concept called distributed network, and which is what, the government has been asking, so they are talking of, can we have incubation without walls? Which means somebody sitting in Bhubaneswar wants some kind of help, in Karnataka. Can that innovator from Bhubaneswar really reach out to that help in Karnataka? It could be mentor, technical, market, regulatory, it could be anything. So the next 2-3 years, we are going to see that shift from the startup ecosystem. Today, as we speak, we are seeing, individual universities, institutes, academic institutions working. But now we have also started collaborating. So METI TIE 2.0 scheme had the scheme called, I don't know if your university is part of the TIE 2.0 scheme, but there is, besides getting funding support for innovation, there is also one mandate given to matured incubators like some of us, where we have to mentor at least 12 upcoming incubators. So very clearly now it is getting into a hub and spoke, where they are saying you have to ensure your geographical area, like I think that's already the focus in your case, right? So that is the step we are going towards. But I can tell you in the next 7 to 8 years, or maybe 5 years, I don't know how long it will take, the vision is incubation without walls. So just imagine when that happens, then it's exponential for us, right? So likewise, we're talking about industry, corporate. I gave you the example how the SMEs actually opened their doors. And the best part is, we have always seen SMEs, family managed business, generally it is said that they are very, any strategic decision, they'll always see money. The important factor for them is how much money they make in the deal. Obviously, we're all in business. But at that point of time, they were just saying, we just want our cost back. Let them use it. suddenly that whole, approach changed. The industry and corporates are more than happy. And today corporates especially, I must emphasize, the CSR Act is so favorable to incubators like ours. So today the CSR allows funding to incubators and incubators who are in the space of startup ecosystem, or say entrepreneurship, or startup funding. In fact, the CSR Act also allows funding to help incubators with their infrastructure, their lab supports. So today, and a corporate is looking at this opportunity and they're supporting. Say for example, I come from a finance background, as in dealing with financial intermediaries. So I know one of the largest financial intermediary tying up with funding the startup through our incubation, and the startup is in fintech. So look at this strategic alliance. So while the CSR mandate is taken care, they're also identifying a fintech which is going to have a value in their business, and probably they can have an alignment in the future date. So things are very different today. It is no longer the challenge of, and I think I also see as a faculty, I understand we only have that much limitation to understand the, innovations and technical, and we can also take them up to a point. But what I'm trying to say is, like an incubator and the baby, after that process, you actually can take the help of so many other stakeholders around us. We can take that ahead as we move along, and certainly ensure that our startup is empowered to face the real world. So likewise, the startup associations, designers, so service providers. So today you have Google, Microsoft, AWS giving credits for their free credits for their services for startups. So everybody are into that enabling, because they know that once they support this, and there is a chance of them becoming a unicorn, everybody gains along with it, right? Industry experts, mentors, like what we discussed, there are a lot of people who are willing to give back. And I think Mohandas Pai is a very classic example as a way he's contributing. Of course, he's into many things, but he's one of the investors who really invests a lot in startups with a social cause. So, women entrepreneurship, social cause, and we do recommend, we do suggest. So there are startups who ask, and we've seen those discussions. So I think there is no dearth of support in that sense, but very important for a startup ecosystem to really, the germination point is the academic ecosystem. So typically when you look at an academic ecosystem, just before we go to this slide, so what we're trying to say is all of these work because there is a win-win from both ends. Right? So this is the basic thing. I mean, you win, we win, you win, we win, you lose, we lose. And that's the mindset, and that's how an entrepreneur also starts working, right? So when you look at an academic ecosystem, so typically an academic ecosystem will have all of this. We all know it. So you have students, you have researchers, postdocs, we have research centers, we have faculties, right? So what we're trying to say is, and this is actually the way IIT Bombay works. I mean, I've just made it very generic. I've removed the headings because it should be appealing even to a university of your types. So what we're trying to say is that while look at this hub and spoke. So there is a startup incubator. So it's essential. I think you already have it. So it's essential there is one center or one cell which really integrates things from across. So we are talking of research centers, innovations coming from one side. You have collaboration, so your alumni, etc. Very important. This piece is very important because ultimately, as I said at the beginning also, if I don't have a customer who's willing or a consumer who's willing to pay for my product, I think the whole effort is futile. I mean, you can just talk about innovations and keep it in the files and nothing beyond that, right? But this is very critical, commercialization. Then, of course, various ways of dealing with commercialization, we discussed that. This is very important. So this is something which, I don't know, as a university, you have all this already thought of it, but at most of the leading academic institutions with good incubators have started offering microcredit courses on entrepreneurship. So what typically happens is, when the innovations, and when I talk about microcredit courses, not just for the students, but even the faculty research, I mean, even the research guides, they are also getting into this discussion. So what happens is when they are already looking at innovations, research, solving a problem, working on the actual research problem, they also get parallel inputs from this center in terms of how to look at it from an entrepreneur perspective, how to look at it from a startup perspective. And those inputs become so critical, right? So there is this very interesting, this thing called customer validation, right? We call it customer insighting. So typically what we say is whatever, suppose your product is in the stage of, say, POC, proof of concept, where you have actually, just about, got the basics in place. What we say is at that stage itself, you should be able to identify who are the probable customer segments who can actually look at this product. Can you actually engage with a sample, 30, 40 of them, have a freewheel chat, and don't sell your product, don't talk for your solution, but can you actually engage with them and understand what are the type of problems they face? And out of the problems, if one of the top problem they face happens to be the solution you're working in, you've hit the problem solution fit. So, that kind of is an aha moment. The second thing is, if you find the problem you are working, the solution you're working in, does not feature in any of those list of problems when you engage with the prospective customer, you need to come back to the drawing board and see. So at that point of time, you really, you're at a stage where you can curtail your loss of resource time, your own personal time, could be funding because you have got some funding supports from some projects. So that is the beauty. So this is a very powerful tool. And if I think we strongly believe that if campuses have done well in the startup, I think is because we have already inculcated this thought at the back to our drawing board and see what are the possible small changes and tweaks we can do in our teaching methodology, okay, which will really get the students to go out of the building. Okay, when we say out of the building, obviously not pandemic times go out, but at least engage with people, talk to them. So I gave you the example of customer insighting, right? So if we as faculty are able to do that small tweaking, that really opens the mind of the students, right? That brings in skills, social skills. That brings in out-of-box thinking. Because see, ultimately a student will do it because the student needs credits. And if you're linking it to your academic course, they know that they're going to be evaluated. So you know how the students, the current generation, they're very smart guys. If they want, they will do it overnight. Otherwise, they will not move because they don't see what in it. I mean, and we have to accept the generation, right? And that is one thing as faculties we have to realize. So the generations are going to change. How can we still keep them motivated? In fact, last week when I took a session for IIIT Delhi, so one of the challenge most of the faculties are saying, how do you keep them motivated? So that's the beauty. So we said, first you have to keep them motivated. We ourselves have to be motivated, number one. And today students are empowered with something called technology. Everything is available on internet. So if we look at incubators or accelerators, so acceleration is another extended form of incubators, right? In India, you will find academics are contributing the highest. So today you have incubators who are competitors for us from corporates. They are independent, like Indian Angel Network. They are government supported ones also. But the biggest contributors are academics, and I think NASSCOM is also talking about how the incubators have to really change their approach of doing incubation, because that's where the focus is. So if I were to just come back to the so why I'm giving this information, this slide is like, so while I've said so far that it is up to us, it is our mindset, so on and so forth, but today even the policies have undergone a change. So like what Dr. Karuna Sagar was talking about is that, the policy, that is, if you look at the ARIA ranking, if you look at the NIRF ranking, so ARIA ranking talks about innovation, idea generation, IP, learning methodology, right? NIRF ranking talks about teaching, learning, resources, research and professional practices, graduation outcomes, outreach and industry, and say peer perception. So if you look at these kind of rankings, these kind of parameters, very clearly as an institution, we have to ensure we are there and top. So if we have to, as a policy level, we have to move there, means we have to make the change from within the system. So today, even at a policy level, things are different. New education policy is talking of policy changes at the school level. Atal Innovation, as you're already part of an Atal Innovation Center. You already have a very good center. We have tinkering labs at school level. Okay, so today the education is also undergo a phenomenal change. So if the education policy is undergoing a change, what does it mean to us? It means academic institution policies have to align to it. And who are the main guys who deliver? Teachers like you and me, right? So we have to actually adapt. It's going to be a challenge, because that does not mean that our teaching or our research responsibilities will not go. That would remain. But what we're trying to say is, we have to make that extra effort, and that's how we ensure our compliances or ranking aspirations are met. So it's a mindset change we all have to go through, as stakeholders, key stakeholders in the academic ecosystem. So like I think we discussed this at length. So all these, it's not just one, the entire ecosystem from the government is supporting, investors, corporate, all of them are supporting. So when we're talking about startup ecosystem benefits, like we discussed, it's not just about, it's about obviously a good reputation, and it's really nice to know that your university is already picking up steam. And if you're already there, I think Bangalore, Manipal also has got a very popular, very well-known innovation center or incubation for their life science. So it might make a lot of sense to see if there is some alignment, collaboration, or if there is some complementary way of doing things. So it becomes more, more power to the whole approach to that area. And like I told you, it's a hotbed for nurturing unicorns. Okay, I'm not saying all of them can become unicorns, but even if you're able to get one in the next 10 years, I think it's the most satisfying and the most gratifying moment for the entire ecosystem. So when like the benefit, while for the institute, like I told you, the biggest beneficiary are the students, because ultimately in education, as I think teachers or faculties, we want to see our students do well, either as entrepreneurs or wherever. So today when we actually put them, so like we discussed, that if the teaching methodology is going to undergo a small change, so I've come from the corporate side, so I can just share my example. So in the corporates, so typically a graduate student passing out, they join at a trainee level, GET, graduate engineering training, or trainee level, or management training, whatever. So at that entry level, what does corporate normally look at? So the CV talks to gives us an insight about the knowledge, the technical skills. I don't need to ask. But the other two things which the corporate looks at is the skill and attitude. So the skill and attitude of the student, right, who's passing out and who's looking at a placement opportunity, it really cannot be gauged, by just looking at the CV. It is by engaging. Now, if the student has had an experience of really being part of these activities, in so many things we discussed, look at the way the value addition gets created in the mind of the corporate, right? So it is enhancing the skills of employability. So today, it's all right if the students just, be part of your ecosystem of entrepreneurship or, e-cell or whatever you call it up to the graduation. Perfectly fine. We all come from different backgrounds. Like, I think it was discussed at the inaugural speech. So we really, I might be compelled to take up a job, though I might want to, and the beauty is the seeds of sowing that entrepreneurship will never go waste. The student might be compelled to taking up a job because of personal reason, but believe me, if the seed is sowed, and in Hindi we say "Keeda kaata hai," and if the bug has bitten the student, saying that this is the beauty and the advantage of entrepreneurship and startup and being a boss of my own, after 5 years, 10 years, he's going to come back to that. So that is the power of this whole process, right? So it becomes extremely important to create that culture around, and that happens only at the academic institution level. And that happens only when faculties like you and me really make that change in our own way of doing things. We talked of funding support, a lot of cross collaboration opportunities. Obviously, you're now in the life science, so you have huge collaborations. So now you bring in collaboration from an innovation perspective, from a startup perspective. Today we have co-incubation as a collaboration option. So today incubators get together. So today there is this company called Bellatrix. Now they are into space technology, right? They were first incubated at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. So very soon, the way their growth required them to have multiple incubation points. And one of the incubation points was, I think, some kind of technical help from IIT Bombay also. So immediately we got into a co-incubation facility. So today the startup is getting, all of us are happy to help somebody who deserves. So it's not necessary that you might have, your university needs to have all the know-how. Just look around, there are people to work. And it has to be a win-win, obviously, right? And one very big advantage is your alumni network. So today, if you're very conscious about, developing the startup ecosystem, and you have, as an institute, decided outcomes and milestones to really make that happen, right? Saying that so many students at least should go through this process. So if you put some internal, maybe you can map it to your ARIA or NIRF outcomes, or if that's not possible, at least within your own system, you will find one of the strongest thing is how do you really use your alumni to really help them do this. So today we have seen that most of your institute is like say 10, 15 year plus, right? So you would definitely have some alumni who really done well in that space. And we have seen students who very beautifully connect with these alumni. And as alumni, we all love our college and institute back. We want to always give back. And given the technology, geographical location is just not a challenge. So can we actually, harness the alumni network even to strengthen our startup ecosystem? How can we do it? Engage with them, see what they can do, and they can help you in plethora of things, right? And like I think Dr. Indiani also talked about, how do you harness? So I had this query when I took FDP for NIFTM. There was a faculty from Himachal Pradesh. He said, look, you guys are in locations where you have enough local opportunities. I'm in Himachal. I mean, how can I work on these things? So we told them, look at problems within your state. You don't have to come out and solve a problem for somebody else. So very clearly local strength. And I think when we're looking at harnessing local ecosystem, is not just about solving a problem, but we are also increasingly seeing that tier 2, tier 3 cities also are getting some very good funding opportunity for our startups. So today when you look at a startup journey, funding is required at every stage, right? Beyond the government, after a point, you have to be on your own, right? So we find the investors in tier 1 cities, they have so many opportunities. I mean, it's like a clamored approach. But today we are seeing tier 2, tier 3 cities, investors, HEIs, rich farmers, and I think Bangalore, I don't need to tell. I mean, they are some of the most wealthiest people also, right? And now they are, and in incubation, and they can fund startups because ultimately money is channelized into incubation center. Of course, you have to see the legalities. It also is considered as a donation. So there are a lot of funding local strengths which you can. So when I say startup ecosystem at a macro level, the exact mirror, can you start developing it at a local level, right? So we talked of infrastructure and state of technology. Faculty, like I told you, it benefit to the faculty. It's a dream come true. What more if you have toiled 5 years, 7 years of your efforts to develop a patent or a technology, and when you see that is being put to use to save human life, I think that is the happiest moment, a dream come true for all of us, right? Obviously, it encourages research, innovations, as we discussed, patentable research, funding is available. And I think as a faculty, as a researcher, you would also evolve. So this depends on the policy of the institute. So most of the mature incubators today, their host institution academic policies are aligned to really encourage the faculty or researchers to look at startup, which means like there are some academic institutions which allows the faculty to take 1% stake, equity stake, mentor equity stake. So there are various policies which are developed at a policy level to encourage faculties to look at it. And if given that kind of a facility, what happens is we as researchers also change, we inculcate the entrepreneurial mindset, and we also have this beautiful journey. So imagine while you are also getting a good name for your innovation, somewhere you also become investors, and somewhere one unicorn will also give you that kind of valuations which you need. You become mentor and coach. So there are a lot of things which we as faculty benefit, but it's a lot of time and effort which goes into this whole thing. But yeah, so we get an opportunity to change our mindset, and students, we discuss this, right? We talked of employability and experiential learning. So again, NASCOM says how future university should be. I can share this. So everywhere the focus is on tier 2, tier 3 colleges. They are not just looking at tier 1. They're saying how to get tier 2, tier 3 more innovative, have better startup. And one thing I would like to leave with this audience is, you understand what's happening outside, but you create what you think works for you. Because there's no one standard fit. That's the beauty. We have seen the geographical, states. So I'm working on this study, as I told you, with ISBA. What works in, say, Gujarat and Rajasthan, because Gujarat and Rajasthan are fairly entrepreneurial in their mindset, and that does not work in Tamil Nadu, right? So then we have to clamor and find out what works in Tamil Nadu so that we can make that, outcome happen. So that's the mindset you also need to wear on. So I'll just spend some time on the startup. How are we on time, sir? Can I just take another 10 minutes?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Are there any questions? Maybe then I can go ahead on this.
Yeah, we'll have questions in the end, I think now.
Okay, fine. So startup and startup ecosystem. Yeah, so these are some science startup companies. I'm just sharing just as a example. Please visit our website. So this is a faculty driven startup. That's why I brought it here. And this is a unique, obviously, it's not got into a full commercialization stage because there is still some approvals pending, but they are talking of treatment of cancer at 1/10 the cost through this, this technology, right? So the indigenous CAR T cells technology. So this is in the drawing board, should be seen through very soon, but this is a faculty driven. So imagine faculty is taking, he has his faculty taking initiative, and he has his team working on it, and very soon tomorrow as a team they might probably set up a startup. IU Devices is a student-led startup. Of course, now he's an incubator team with signed, but very soon he will graduate. So he's developed a technology which is Bluetooth enabled smart stethoscope, where actually clinicians and medical practitioners can actually screen the patients at a safe distance. Please visit his website. His story is very insane. In fact, this company was in this technology innovations a few years ago, and COVID was a golden chance for him, because when you're talking of screening from a safe distance, what better time than pandemic. So he got complete support from state government and central government, and this was. And Idea Forge, you must have heard of UAV, the drone technology. In fact, Idea Forge has created a drone industry now. I mean, there was nothing called a drone industry. That's the power of startup, right? They're able to create the new age economy ideas and innovations, are able to create industries. And Idea Forge has created a drone industry. I mean, it's got recognized now. So, and these two companies were startups which signed in 2005 and 6, and today they are all mid companies. Both these companies are student-led startups, and this is a faculty-led startup. So typically a startup life cycle, we all know it flows from here. You're talking of POC, prototype, validation, acceleration, and like what Dr. Indrani was talking about, you will start off from here, right? And these are the various outcomes which really need to, with the desirable outcomes for any startup or the innovators to work in. So while we look at this, the challenges are huge. I mean, while it sounds very hunky-dory, believe me, the emotional, the innovator, see, we've always seen the labs, the researchers are very technically sound, they are so good in science, the scientific temper is superb. But when they enter into the startup, their emotional quotient is challenged. Because till such time, we've always been thinking like from scientific perspective. So, and somewhere, if I may, I'll be allowed to use, there is always this thing saying, if I put this effort, iska result itna aana chahiye, right? I mean, so likewise, as a person, if I'm putting efforts towards, going and reaching out to a customer and asking him about his interest on the product or solution, he will give me a yes, or he will probably give me answers. that is the kind of assumption they work with. But believe me, it's a different story. They are exposed to the real world. I mean, the journey of an innovator, I take a session separately on entrepreneur mindset actually, because it is like peeling your skin, the journey from innovator to entrepreneur mindset. So probably that is the reason we say that not everything gets into a startup. There are a lot of innovators or, people who turn up saying, hey, that's not my cup of tea. Can I just look at technology transfer? I love what I'm doing and I think I'm best here. I'm not somebody who can change so easily. And that's fine. We respect that, right? So that's why these options, if you remember the earlier slide, we talked of technology transfer, licensing. Those are all ways to commercialize. But of course, there are, and then these are all intelligent boys and girls, right? So there are all people who say, no, I want to give it a try. So then go through the grind. So, there's a lot of internal and external challenge. Of course, external, we know external environment, what challenges, but I think the biggest focus for me is the internal challenge. And like I said, the challenge which most of the startup face is the product market. So as I told you, market as in customer willing to pay for it, right? Funding, we discussed that, and very important team. Now, this is something which we really kind of harp when they are with us in incubation, because when you look at a startup or when you look at any story like a Swiggy or a Zomato or a Flipkart or any other healthcare for that matter, there is always a team which has made it happen. And the ability to work with co-founders, ability to bring a team together. So one is co-founder team, the other one is a execution core team. Right. So in a startup, you're all one. All of them have roles, responsibilities. As human beings, we able, there are a lot of things we love, we can't let go. Those dynamics are very challenging. And that's when you involve your mindset to an entrepreneur, where from a larger perspective. So we find that most of the startups, this is research also, reports say that startups fail because the teams get shaky. So at the incubator, we spend a lot of time on this. We really don't spend time much on the technology because they are the masters. We don't need to tell them. But what we really need to tell them on the soft skills. So if you look at startup, it is not a journey like this. It is a huge journey. And like we discussed, while we show them the beautiful way, but we have to stand there like a solid this thing to help them go through that. There are times when we have our startups who come back and say, I think we give up. Enough is enough. But then we have to come back and go down and say, okay. And then we realize that, okay, we can't solve the problem. Okay, there's an expert in Delhi market who understands this. Can we connect him there? That's how we incubators get together and work together, right? So if you look at incubation, this is the broad journey. I think you already must be having it. You have pre-incubation, incubation, accelerator, and at every stage, you need all these enablers to make it happen. At Sign, it is a 3-year journey. It could vary. For healthcare startups, we extend it to 5 to 7 years because, of course, even Agri, the gestation period is longer. So these are some funding supports. So since you already have funding, I don't think I need to explain all this to you. I'm just skipping it. And of course, so I'm just kind of almost at the end where we're saying that some of the enablers for a very solid startup thing is obviously the policy of the host institution, which I see very clearly. You're all there. We discussed all these points. Faculty way of doing things. We need to really get entrepreneurial, which is very critical. Shared resources and facilities. I think it's already must be there because that's the way I heard the entire introduction speech. Academic culture to promote entrepreneurship. We discussed this. Then very important student-friendly policies such as opting out of placements, and failure is no longer a badge of. It's a badge of pride. So that's something. So today we have, large corporates who actually say that we would like to have students who've done startup, and even if they have not taken off, we want those guys because they've experienced failure. So like what the Vice Chancellor was just talking about is that skill. So it's no longer a failure for us. And obviously this is key. So when we were talking about, the people who are driving startups need to be entrepreneurial. What does that mean? Just one sec. So when we say the center, the DST Tech Center, when we are saying that you have an Airtel Innovation Center or a DST Tech Center, eventually what is expected of the team who's working on the center is that you become self-sustainable. So I've heard Atal Innovation Mission Director Ramanan saying the biggest challenge today they see as Atal Innovation. It's a successful model. It's doing very well. They're very happy with the impact. But they're already visualizing one thing which they want Atal Innovation Centers to be competent and to start enabling them. That is sustainability. They're saying up to a point in time we can fund them. After then, they should find out how to they. So you also become a startup in that sense, right? So that is the key today. So you have to look at various economic models where you have to start a system, nothing to do with academia. So the only bridge you have to work. I mean, like today, if you have venture center as an organization, as an incubator, they work, though they are part of the NCL institute, but they work on an arm's length. So there is an independency, autonomy available for the incubator, but at the same time you have that kind of support from the host institution. And very important, the incubator team, the team who's working on this. So ma'am, we are talking about the kind of champions who will be working the DST Tech Center, or they have to really have a solid understanding. Their working styles, they will be so different from, probably that is the reason people like us got into an incubation, because we have seen the other side of the world. So you really need to have people who can adapt to that, right? So the incubator is all about, I mean, this whole journey is all about a lot of patience capital and obviously the mindset of all the stakeholders. So just lend, maybe some thought. So I'm sure, I think a lot of this may not be relevant because you're already exposed to it. So this is typically for institutions who don't know how to start. But so we've discussed most of it. Very important is that you start collaborating with other incubations and other, startup ecosystem. Create your own local ecosystem. See how you can. Karnataka has a very solid ecosystem, and then probably look at reaching out across to the other geographies. And networking is very important. Your alumni is your strength, and also ensure that you are active in all these forums, because today CII has a separate startup platform, NASCOM has a separate startup platform. So these are at a government level, I would say, not government, but more with large companies and more from a macro level. But you will also find very interesting organizations like Head Start, who are smaller guys, but they're doing very effective work. So we have to ensure as our academic ecosystem, our presence, our students, our faculty, especially our students, they are there in all the events, they are actively participating, they are participating in competitions, they are giving sessions. So, that kind of builds. So startup ecosystem is all about win-win networking. And you give, you share, we get, I mean, we share, that kind of a thing. So social media is a very powerful platform today, very clearly, because we have seen, I don't need to explain much more on that. So we have a lot of groups, we get to know, it's all about spreading your network and reach. In fact, you can create a lot of awareness about your university, grow and impact. So when we're talking about a very good startup ecosystem, the first thing is you have to have a very solid academia ecosystem, and that contributes to your local ecosystem, and that obviously has a far-reaching impact. So I think this is what I wanted to share in today's session. I'm open, I'm almost done, so I'm open to questions, thoughts.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ganga, for this excellent talk, which was very comprehensive, and you have covered all aspects of the ecosystem and explained what the academia need to do, and how the students can benefit, and how the industry can benefit, and how both everybody working together can then facilitate development of startups and the technology being transferred to the industry. Thank you very much. There are a couple of questions that have come into our chat
Sure.
box. Now, one thing is you talked about the need for interaction with, say, consumer before, say, technology can go to a, say, production stage, because you need to know what the consumers are wanting and how the product can be tailored to the needs of the consumer.
Yeah.
So how does science facilitate this dialogue between, say, a startup or an entrepreneur and the consumer body?
Yeah. So what happens is, so that's a good question. So what typically happens is, Sign has over a period of time developed our own network and ecosystem with industries also and corporates. I'll just give you one example. Mahindra is one of the prominent corporates in this area, right? So Mahindra was in their mobility services division wanted to really look at some new edge cutting technology which can really empower their mobility services. So since we already have this kind of information interaction flowing in regularly from corporates. And we also, when there are some new startups which have come on board, we also do an information sharing with them. So it's all about communication. So we have demo days where we invite people from the corporates to come and say, we just come and listen to what they're doing. And some of the times, like Sanofi, right, has a corporate mentorship program with us, saying that, so we expose them to our startup innovators. And they picked up some 4 or 5 startups to say that we would like to mentor them. So what happens is, it's all about what kind of seamless information which flows from both ends, create those presentation meeting points, expose, and because when the corporates are hungry for new technology, what we are doing for them in short is reducing their R&D expense, right, in some way. So why will they not look at it? So we have to do that proactive. So probably what you could, I don't want to sound preachy, but if you already have some very interesting innovations, like some of your, and it could be at a stage of only POC, not at the at a stage of validation, but somewhere directionally, engage with companies who probably could be potential users or potential strategic partners. It could be anything. Have a demo day, call them across on online, let them present. Of course, confidentiality matters. You have to take care of that. But after a point, you can always share, these are our ideas and thought process. You see how they will open up.
Thank you. Another question is from somebody who is interested in being a startup. Of course, they have heard about different types of funding and all that. But when they approach some of these funding systems, they say, okay, they can come in only when the infrastructure is built and the product is about to go to market. But if the entrepreneur has nothing and he's starting from zero, he wants to find some funding to develop his manufacturing facility. Are there investors who would be willing to fund from that stage, or investors come in later?
So it's a good question. So if you, I can just share my presentation, because I skipped that slide because I thought funding was something, it says I can't, you can see my slide?
Not yet, probably it'll take a while.
No, one sec. Let me just try it again. Otherwise I can just try to explain it, just one sec. Yeah, I can see it?
Yeah, now it says,
sure.
Now it's.
So what you will find is, so typically here you see the stage of, the startup, your product development, customer trial, validation, early revenue growth, all of this, right? So look at the funding options. So the person who's looking at, this question, if you're at this stage, please ensure there is funding coming from here. There are government schemes, accelerator, there's CSR. Please participate in challenges, hackathons. Money comes in, because the amount of monies are very, very limited. You will not have anybody. So see, it's not that you won't get money at 25 lakhs. See, easily for you is to get from friends, relatives, and investors, from your known this thing. But then it's for us, if you really want to test, because you really want to test whether it is a product or a solution which is worth the effort, and if you really want to get a validation from outside, it's always good to look at these options at an early stage. And when you're looking at, so once if you look, if you move from a product development stage to a customer validation, and you have any of these people invested, which means you have the right inputs to really bring it to this stage, automatically you have the angel investors coming in here. And today I can tell you one thing, it's not true to say that investors don't invest in at a prototype stage or a MVP stage, right? I've heard investors say that if, okay, I make, just hear these statements very clearly. They are saying very clearly that if we can see that the solution which you have made is, is having, the potential to solve a large problem, okay, which means the market size is big and the customers are willing to pay, okay, and we also can see, they're not even saying you should make profits at day one. We also can see that we also are supporting you to, to see your company going into losses, because first year you won't make profit, you have to break even, there are costs which you have to take care. We will also handhold those the startups through that journey, as long as we are able to see the path to profitability. Which means if you're able to say, stay with me for 1.5 years, this is the market, this is the opportunity, this is the kind of customer validation we have, as in we have LOIs, letter of intents, paid pilots which have happened, or just pilots, they have shown interest, they are very keen on collaborating. If you're able to show them that, show them the market size, and also show them a path to profitability, saying in 1.5 years, if I continuously do these numbers, I'll be able to make profits. Investors are willing to support you. So it all depends on really what is the kind of value you bring on the table. There are a lot of investors who are willing to even help you with some kind of networks. Even if they believe that you have a very good innovation technology and you don't have the access to the right market, they will also bring their networks on the table, saying, why don't you talk to this person? He might be able to help you. So you have to really be in that network. So first explore this, then move to this. I don't know if I'm...
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's got a very nice slide, and
we all grow together. So more than happy. And I hope I've been able to do justice to the expected outcome of the session, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. It has been very useful and great information. And we also will make this available through our YouTube, so that people who could not participate today can still view and benefit from
sure.
And of course, as you said, we will be very happy to be part of your network. And you were talking about number of technologies in the healthcare area, which Sign is working.
Sure.
And if you want any support from Nittay, which has a 1,000-bed hospital and 21 rural health
fantastic.
centers, so we'll be happy to participate in any trials or any.
Fantastic. I think that's like a brilliant piece of information for our startups. I will take this message back home and probably get them to, we will divert. And likewise, in case you have request your team to go through our website and see what kind of startups we are working on. And beyond that, if you have any kind of help input, we'll be more than happy to share with you. No problem.
Thank you. So I would like to thank you very much
for
this. And
thank you for the opportunity.
We're very grateful for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.